Hello everyone, welcome to our subject web technology. So in today's topic we are going to see HTTP response message and web clients. Okay, two topics we are going to discuss it today. HTTP response message and web clients. Okay, in the previous topic we have seen about HTTP request message. Okay, so request in the sense when the user send a request, so what are all the information it gets attached. Okay, the browser attaches something uh, for sending a request to the server. Okay, so today we are going to see the HTTP response message. So the server will respond back the request message. So along with the response, what are all the header fields it is associated. Okay, so those things we are going to see it, and followed by the topic web clients. Okay, so before jumping into the topic, this is what this picture this part is the a header field associated with the HTTP response message. Okay, so along with the content, so what are all the header fields in the sense what is the protocol it is using, whether the request was successful or failure, so when the response gets generated, which server produces the response, when was that content last modified, etc. So these are the fields we are going to see it in HTTP response message. Okay, so hope you will be aware that HTTP request and response. Okay, so when a web browser send a request, so it will be transmitted via HTTP protocol, and that we are saying as a HTTP request. Okay, when the requested URL is matched with this respective web server, the server will process the header field, what part of information the client is requesting, that information will be sent back to the web client. Okay, so web client, that's nothing but our browser. Okay, so this is how the HTTP request and response messaging works. Okay, so these are the things as an user will be knowing it. Okay, so in the background part, how it is actually running. So the what are all the header information our request is sending, and what are all the header information the response from the web server is replying. So those things we are going to see it. So in previous class we have seen the HTTP request message, and today we are going to see all about response message from the server. Okay, server will respond back to the web client. Okay, so this is the overall structure of the HTTP response message. Okay, so in request message we have seen here instead of the status line, the very first line in HTTP request is start line. So there in HTTP request, here it is the status line followed by the header fields of the response message, a blank line followed by the message. Okay, the body part of the response. Okay, so we will be going to see one by one in this topic HTTP response message by the server. Okay, not by the client. So request message is by the client, and response will be from the web server. Okay, so in this status line, again as like the HTTP request method, it is divided into three parts. Okay, what are the three parts are HTTP version, as we have seen in the previous request message itself, HTTP 1.1 version, and here the second part is the status code. In this example 200 it is shown, so that part we are saying as a status part, and followed by one text that says in this example as OK. Okay, so we are going to see this these two things, what that 200 and OK means. Okay, and you will be knowing the first part, the version of the HTTP the server is responding back to the client. Okay, so what that status code and text string is. Okay, so status code is a numeric number 200, which is a 3-digit number, and it is again classified as two parts. The first digit number represent the general category of the status code. Okay, the other two parts, two digits provide in detail information about the status code. Okay, so here in the previous example 200, so in that the first digit 2 indicates our request was processed successfully. Okay, and it's a general class. Okay, so here the digit 1 indicates the server provides information to the client before completely processing the request. Okay, so those categories of status code will start with status code 1. Okay, 1 followed by 2 digit number. 2 means the status code, it relates to success. Okay, the request has been processed successfully. So if the status code starts with the digit 3, it means redirection. It means the client requested with one URL that needs to be redirected to some other resource. Okay, to fulfill its request. Okay, redirection is redirection is needed if the status code starts with the digit 0. And if the status code with digit 4 means something went wrong in the client request. 5 means something went wrong at the server side. Okay, so this is about the status code, and here is some common status code that is used. So 200, it says okay. So okay means the request has been processed successfully. There is no issue either from the client, there is no issue from the server side. Okay, so 301, if the status code is 301, these are some of the common status code. I think you might have come across, we might be coming across generally 404 status code. Okay, we will come to this. Before this, 301. So 301, what that status code indicates is the requested URI is moved permanently to some other location. So that needs to be redirected. Okay, so our content, what the client has requested, that resource is moved somewhere permanently. 307 means the same thing is moved temporarily, that also needs redirection. 401 is unauthorized. It means the requested URL is protected by the password. Okay, and 403 means forbidden. It means the requested URI is right, but the client is forbidden to access the resource. Okay, so it is mainly for administrative purpose. The general or the normal user don't have the permission to access that resource. Okay, but that URL is right. Okay, so that URL provides some information, but the general user is forbidden to access that information, whereas this 401 is unauthorized. It needs that URL is a password protected. Only the registered user can access the resource. Okay, 404. Okay, this is the thing we usually come out with the server side. We might have seen this 404 error practically. So what does it mean? Means the requested URL by the client is by the client. Okay, so that URL finds no resource. Okay, so there is no content in that URL. Okay, the server is not able to provide the information to the client. Okay, so that's the meaning of 404. Okay, 404 means not found. No resource corresponding to the given URL was found by the server. So 500 means something went wrong by the server side, some failure occurs. Okay, the requested URL is right, the client side there is no issue, but the server side there is some issue to process that request. Okay, so that's the there is some error by the server side. Okay, but the requested URL is correct. Okay, so in that case the status will be 500. Okay, so 500 means it doesn't mean that URL is wrong. That URL specified by the client is right, but something went wrong in the server side. Okay, so these are the common status code given by the server. Okay, it is based on the client request. And apart from that, status line, the next part in the structure of the response message is header field. Okay, so header fields in HTTP request message itself, we have seen some of the header fields like request method, character set, then accepted languages the server used, lot of things. So those and here the header fields like connection, okay, so how long the connection exists, what is the content type it will return, how long the return message fields. So these few fields are common for both request header field and response header field. Apart from these fields like connection, content type, content length, okay, so apart from that the response header field has some other field names like these things: date, server, last modified, expires, etag, accept ranges, and location. So what are these fields indicates? So date means the time at which the server responds to the client, okay, which server, okay, for example, if you take a google.com, there is a server that will respond back. So don't think there is only one server that is responding to all over the world. So there are n number of Google servers running in different locations, okay. So here the server will in the header part of the response message, the server header field indicates from which server the request has been processed, okay. It indicates the server name. Last modified means the requested URL content when it gets modified. That information will be that time will be stored in the header field called as last modified. Expires, how long the resource will reside in the server, okay. So the things are evolving each and every day, okay. So once we put some information in the server, it doesn't mean that it will stay forever, okay. Due to evaluation, that the content might be changed, or the entire resource or the entire web page might be removed in the future, okay. So it gives some additional information about that web page or resource. So here we are saying the resource is nothing but web pages, okay. So for a specific URL, the server will respond back with some some web page, okay, if it is processed successfully. That web page we are saying here as a resource, okay. So expires, it says how long the web page will reside in the server. So etag, this is quite interesting, and it will be used in cache repository. So these things, the time, the header fields related to time. So these are all helpful for caching those content in the cache memory. So that we are going to see what cache control is in the coming slide. So etag, is a code okay, for the resource, okay. If the resource remains unchanged, it means when there is no change in the web page, the etag remains unchanged, okay. So in the server side, if there is a change in that web page, the etag value gets changed, okay. So with that, whether the value of etag gets changed or not, so with that check, the client will decide whether to use the cache cache information or to get the same from the server, okay. Cache is little fast, so it will fetch the information from the cache if the etag is if there is no change in the etag, okay. That we will be seeing in the forthcoming slides. Accept range, okay. So here it's what that accept range says is the client can request only a portion of a resource. For example, the web browser, the server will send back the information to the client in terms of hundreds and hundreds of PDF document. What happens in that PDF document? A client needs a single page, okay. So it is a mere waste to download the entire 100 pages because the client needs only a single page. In that situation, the client can specify the range of the pages it needs to get using this header field accept ranges, okay. And the last header field is location. So the location says while redirection means the specified URL for the specified URL by the client. So it needs to that URL needs to be redirected to somewhere else, some other location to fulfill its request. Okay, in that situation the server will provide the redirection location by using the header field location. Okay, so these are some of the common header fields used in the response HTTP response message. Okay, so apart from that there are so many header fields. So here the thing mentioned here are some common header fields. Okay, so don't stick to your mind, these are the only header fields available in the HTTP response message. Apart from that there are many other header fields. So these are the most common header fields. Okay, and of course the in the header field of the response message there are connection field is there, content type, content length, etc. Okay, and coming to the client caching. Okay, so here, so why the concept client caching comes here? So because for example we normally used to Google it each and every day n number of times. Okay, so suppose if I gave google.com in the morning around 9 o'clock. Okay, so what will happen if my machine I am accessing it at the very first time google.com. so what will happen, my request will be sent to the Google server and it will respond back with the home page. Okay, so what happens now, around 9:30 after processing that request, after again in the same day around 9:30 if I Google it with google.com, so what will happen now, this time my request won't be sent to the Google server. Okay, instead my request will be first processed by the client cache. Okay, cache repository. Cache is used to store the copy of the information, copy of my request. Okay, so why it needs to store the copy of the information means, suppose in the future if I request that page again, there is no need to unnecessarily download it from the server. Instead our local machine will respond back to that request. Okay, so that it will be easier, no traffic jam, the response will be quick. Okay, so for that purpose only client web browser uses cache repository. Okay, so client caching is nothing but a cache repository that stores the copy of the information which we have requested from the server. Okay, at very first time there will be no copy of information. Okay, so after at very first time our request will be processed by the respective server. Okay, so once that request has been processed, a copy will be stored in our cache, so that if there is a need to access the same page in the near future, so instead of requesting that page again in the server, the cache memory will provide that page in a very short duration of time. Okay, so here is an example. At very first time, as I said, if the requested page is not available in the local cache, so what happens, the server will respond back and that responded message gets stored in the cache. Okay, and again after some time if there is a need to get the same content again, so there is no need to go back to the server and fetch it. Instead the client will look for its cache memory, and if it is there, that information gets provided. And here there is one drawback. What happens, the request after some time the requested content is modified in the server. Okay, so whatever the content that is modified in the server won't be reflected in the cache. So in this situation, so what happens if the client fetches the information from the cache, so it won't reflect the same page as it is stored in the web server. So in this situation only the header field tags are used. Okay, e tag, last time, last modified, expires, using those things the client will send a request of the header part of that page alone, and the web server, instead of responding back to the entire content, entire body of that page, it will respond back with only the header part. Okay, so header part will take only a small quantity of data, so that the client will match that header field with the header field stored in the cache. So okay, if there is no change in the header field like e tag last modified, so then it will fetch the body part from the cache itself instead of downloading it from the web server. So that's the logic behind caching the content in the web browser. Okay, so the advantages and disadvantages of caching, as I said earlier, so you can take a look around that. And the next important thing we need to discuss about character set along with character encoding. So character set, it plays an important role while designing the web page. Okay, so we may not stuck to design a web page for a single language, English. Okay, so today the web pages runs in almost all the living languages in the world, and all the languages are not of same characters. English uses the alphabet characters, and Tamil we have some 247 characters are there. Then Malayalam, Hindi, so Japanese, Chinese, Russian, so all those characters are different. Okay, so to design a web page that reflects that accommodates all these types of characters, we need a character set. So we need to impose a character set along with character encoding. So character encoding means whatever the character, Tamil, English or Malayalam, whatever it may be, so that is for visual representation. But in the background, while transmitting from one machine to another machine, everything will be converted into binary format. And again at the receiver side, the binary code is again decoded into the nice visual representation in the web browser. For that we need a character encoding and decoding. Okay, so this is the a PHP file, an example is given that gets encoded in this format. Okay, so this is the information that gets actually transmitted in the computer network. Okay, not the what we are visually seeing it. Okay, so that's it about the character set. Okay, so character set means, as I said, it's a collection of characters and symbols. Okay, so characters and symbols in different languages all over the world. Okay, so websites written in many languages. Okay, so Unicode character set, a popular choice for web pages. Okay, so there is a character set called as a Unicode, then ISO. In the previous topic, HTTP request message itself, we have seen a character set UTF-8, uniform transfer code. Okay, 816 UTF-16, ISO 8859-1. so those are different character sets. Okay, so here Unicode character set is the popular one, which has the which covers almost all languages characters in the world. Okay, so in Unicode character set, each character is associated with some special unique number called as a code point. Okay, what that code point is. Okay, so we can have a look in this example. Okay, so if we represent a word hello, so in Unicode how it gets translated means each and every character has an unique number in the Unicode. Okay, so this is the unique number, and that number is encoded into binary format while data transmission. Okay, so character encoding, what's the purpose of character encoding? While transmitting the data won't be transmitted as like what we are visually seeing it. So instead, whatever the data it needs to be transmitted, that will be converted into binary forms while transmission, and at the receiving side, the transmitted binary data has to be decoded to display it in a correct presentable user format. Okay, so that's the purpose of character encoding and decoding. Okay, and we could mention the character encoding in the HTML file. Okay, so HTML, so you'll be seeing the introduction to HTML part in the second half of your first unit. So here in the HTML file there is a section called as head section. There you could mention the character encoding UTF-8. Okay, so apart from that there are character sets like ISO 88591, UTF-8, UTF-16 likewise. Okay, so these are the character encodings. We could mention it in the accept character set field, header field. Okay, so what does it mean? It tells to the client that the client will accept this kind of character set. Okay, the server will respond back with the content type as text. The top level type is text, and which is a HTML format, whose where the server uses the character set as UTF-8. Okay. And with this knowledge, so far we have gained about HTTP request message and response message header field. You can fill around these questions. It's quite easier to have this little assessment. Just take a look and respond back. So that's it about the HTTP response message. Okay, so far we have seen about HTTP request message and response message. And one more yes, simple topic and quite easiest topic is web client. Okay, so web client is nothing but our browser. Okay, so only by means of browser we could able to send a request to the server via HTTP protocol. We could browse the content in the internet. Okay, so these are the topics we are going to see: the basic functionalities of the web browser and the URLs, other features of the web browsers and additional functionalities. Okay, it's quite simple and easier topic. Web client is nothing but a software. Okay, so that sends a request to the web server via HTTP protocol. Okay, so as I said, an example for web client is our browser, any browsers. Okay, so today in the market there are the browsers like Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, Opera, Microsoft browsers are available today in the market, and those are the popular browsers. Okay, so web browsers. Okay, now the examples of web client are web browser, text only browser. It means it will provide only the text content, no audio, video, images, no multimedia content is provided by the text browsers. Okay, browser running on all cell phones, and there are software robots that will automatically crawls to the website and download information. Okay, so software robot is also a web client. Okay, so here any web client that is designed to directly support user access to web server is known as user agent. So user agent means the web client supports the user access of the web server. So here in the software robot there is the user has no job. Okay, the software does automatically downloading the information from the internet. So software robot is not an user agent. So user agent means any kind of web client where the user can interact with the server directly. Okay, so that's said to be the user agent. Okay, and I think you will be well aware of the web browsers. Okay, so everybody is nowadays accessing the web browsers. Okay, so and in a web browser the window is divided into different bars. The first the top one is the title bar with the title attached to that bar. Okay, only the title will be there with three buttons. Okay, minimize, maximize and close, followed by the menu bar, navigation bar, and this white space is the body part or the content. Okay, the client area. So from here to here, and status bar. So status bar, it displays the status of our request, like resolving the host. We might have seen at the bottom left we could see the status of our request. Okay, whether the request has been processed or it is resolving or waiting for the so waiting for the server response, or whether the server is transferring the information. When it is completely processed, we will have the status bar indication as done. Okay, so these are some of the status messages that gets displayed in the status bar. Okay, and the primary task of the browser is not only to fetch the information from the internet, it also process the request. Okay, first and foremost is it will convert the web address to our request, HTTP request, and once the request has been done, it will look for IP address of the server. Okay, so usually we will give it as google.com, but machine will understand that in terms of binaries, ones and zeros. So the server will be in terms of a number. Okay, so we need the DNS to get the IP address of that server, followed by establishing the connection. Then once the connection has been established, the client and server can communicate via HTTP protocol. Okay, so this is the overall picture of the primary task of web browser is given. Okay, if the user is sending a request as abcd.com/index.html, so first and foremost it will identify where that abcd.com machine is located. So who will give that location? DNS. So DNS will process the given request and it will send back to the correct server ID, and the client machine will use that IP address of the server to get the response from the server. Okay, these are the primary task of the web browser. And apart from the primary task, it has so many additional functionalities are available in the browser. Okay, so before that we will take a look into the HTTP URLs. Okay, uniform resource locator. Okay, so we have seen it already in the HTTP request message. Okay, so our URL will be divided into n number of parts. Okay, so HTTP colon 2 / followed by this domain is the host. Okay, so host, it will followed by the port number. As I said, port number, it will provide different applications in the internet. Okay, so around 0 to 1023 are the available common port. So those port numbers are fixed, that serves a respective purpose. For example, 80 is for HTTP and SMTP has 25, FTP is port number is 21. Likewise 1024 port numbers are reserved, and apart from that it's a 2-byte number. The user can use the remaining port numbers. Okay, followed by the URI, request URI, and the query. So what the user is requesting, this is the query string. Generally it will be saying is the variable equal to the value, and if there is an one more variable, so that variable equal to its value. This is the query string where the user is requesting from the server. Okay, and hash para means it's nothing but the fragment part. So this part won't be sent to the server, so it is used to scroll to the particular paragraph. Okay, so hash para 5 means this part you will be studying in the HTML. Okay, hash para 5 means in the same browser it will look into the paragraph. Okay, here once this request has been once if this request is made by the web browser, the browser will attach the header fields of this request. Okay, this request is a get request. Get request means we are getting information from the server, we are not going to send some data to the server to store permanently. Okay, so that means that's a post request. Here it is a get request. Okay, followed by the request URI, followed by the path. Okay, so this part we have already seen, and this will give a little more recap of that HTTP URLs. And as I said, so apart from the basic primary task of the web browser, there are some other features available which we are using it nowadays. Okay, we could save a page in the browser, we could find some string using Control F, we could fill some forms automatically, and we could make a bookmark, we could clear the history, store the histories, a lot of things are there. Even we could display raw HTML and HTTP header. So I will take a little demo for this, how to look our raw HTTP header and HTML. Okay, so take any browser. I am using here the Chrome browser, and my URL here is google.com. Okay, so it will be automatically, so if I give google.com, the request will be automatically converted as https://www.google.com. so it means it's not necessary to give www. Okay, so once if I hit the enter, that's the request made by the client, and the request will be processed. Okay, so here if I click, I get this Google page, main page, and here if I right click and go to inspect, I could inspect the HTML page. Okay, so this is the HTML page of that of that response. Okay, so I got google.com. I think it is here. Okay, the main page, so its respective HTML is given here. So we could see the header field. Okay, so header field of both request and the response in the network. Okay, so network menu, I could say. And if I refresh the page again, I can able to see the request header field and the response field. So google.com, if I click here, so we could see. Okay, so status code is, as I said, green color, it is saying 200, so it means response is successfully processed. Okay, and it is a get request, followed by the response header. These are all the response header. As I said, there are many header fields available. We have seen something like content type, content length, date, expiry, cache control. Okay, and lot of things are not displayed here. And of course we can have a look around a request header. Okay, so previously response header field. Okay, response header field, and this is request header field. We can accept encoding, accept language, accept scheme. Okay, scheme here is HTTP, not HTTP, it's HTTP. Yes. Okay, that's what it is. Here it is, this is the scheme. So whatever is displayed before the colon is the scheme, and this part is the scheme dependent part. We have seen already in the HTTP request message. Okay, yeah, and then some other additional functionalities given by our browser. We could change the encoding. Okay, I'll again take you to a little demo for that. So where I could go for view. Okay, in view, text encoding, so I could change the encoding. Okay, default it is given, you can make it these a number of encodings are available. Okay, so Chinese, I think I have seen somewhere, Japanese. Okay, Arabic. Okay, lot of functionalities are features are available in the browser apart from the primary task. Okay, so something like script execution, the browser will do script execution also. It means validating the forms. Okay, the browser itself will validate the form, so not by the server. If the server validates, means it will take a long time, and traffic congestion will happen. The browser has the capability to validate the form, so it has the capability to execute the script, and it will validate and plug-in execution. It means this browser will have the capability to display the non-HTML documents like PDF, some other thing. Okay, and secure communication is provided by the browser. Okay, HTTPS means secure communication. Then automatic filling, for example, if I'll take you to Chrome browser, or I don't find that yeah, TNEB, I'm looking around that TNEB. Okay, so here if I click the user ID, I'll get the automatic fill out by the browser. This is provided by the browser functionality, okay, not by the server. And even handling mouse click, okay, keyboard when I type something in the keyboard, that gets responded by the browser. Then managing the forms also done by the browser. Okay, some of the additional functionalities. Okay, so I have not given it completely. There are a lot of things we could do it in the browser, apart from the primary task of converting our request into HTTP request. Then DNS does the IP conversion, then followed by TCP connection establishment, then HTTP request response conversion. Okay, so apart from that, the browser will do a lot of things for the user. Okay, so that's it about the web clients. You can have a look on this few questions and you could answer it very well, okay, easily. So that's it about the today's session. HTTP request message, response message, and web clients. So today we have seen about the HTTP response message header fields. What are all the header fields available, what are its functionalities, then cache control, what's the purpose of cache control. Then in the web clients, the basic web client or browser. So what's the primary task of the browser and the additional features of the browser we have seen. Okay, so in the next class we will see about the web server. So thank you all.